Welcome everyone to today's webinar brought to you by the Champaign Public Library. This is Source Better Images for Marketing Success. So I am Madeleine Wolske, I'm the business librarian, and we also have Laura Reiss here today. She is an associate in the Adult Services Department and also a business owner. So excited to have her sharing some expertise. So let me go ahead and switch to the next slide. So the library is open and we are here to help. So you are welcome to come in during our open hours. And if you are comfortable staying at home more so than coming out right now, no worries. We can still help you virtually several different ways. You can either give us a chat online during our open hours. You can book a librarian, and that's essentially a one-on-one session with any of our very qualified librarians and staff here at the library. We've helped people. So I might help someone brainstorm a business plan. I know Laura has helped someone learn how to crochet or knit before. So it's really anything underneath the rainbow that you can think of. And always tried and true way of getting a hold of us is sending an email, and that's just to librarian@champaign.org. So today's webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So in case you miss anything, we will be sending that recording out to everyone, and you're more than welcome to revisit some topics that we go through today. Also, if you do have any questions, please feel free to either just type that right in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you if you prefer to verbalize your question. I will say welcome to the library virtually, but also feel free to just chat in the chat box. You don't have to explicitly have a question. If you want to share an insight or something else with everyone else, just make sure that you're sending the message to your intended recipient. So in that "to" for the chat box, make sure it says everyone, or if you just want myself and Laura to see it, send it to hosts and panelists. All right, so, and also if you have any technical issues, also send us a chat and we will work on troubleshooting it within our power and means. All right, well, Laura, shall we?
Hello, shall. Let's
Yeah.
get this webinar going.
Yes, we are very excited to talk about images, finding them, how to use them, and how to best market your business or services or products in the media. All right, so I am going to be starting off today going over image licenses, copyright laws, then we're going to touch base on how to find open source images, moving into choosing the right photo for your brand or graphic, and lastly, using and organizing your images. So a pretty fun class today. All right, so who owns an image? The online world is awash with beautiful pictures, but using an image without permission can have several repercussions. How do you tell if an image is in fact copyrighted? So literally speaking, every work, as soon as it's been created, into kind of a tangible form, is copyrighted. In the US, as soon as you make a creative work and fix it, you are now the copyright owner and no one else can distribute or adapt that work without your permission. So there's a couple of different licenses that we're going to talk about today. The first one is open source, and that's just an image that is shared with a license that makes it easy for any user to use and distribute without crediting the artist, photographer, or without asking for permission. Next, we have a public domain image. It refers to creative materials that are not protected by intellectual property laws, such as copyright, trademark, or patent laws. Essentially, the public owns these works, not an individual author or artist. So anyone can use a public domain work without obtaining permission. So one thing that we might find in public domain are those great works of art by maybe Van Gogh or Leonardo da Vinci. You can actually use that and sell those images on mugs or things because they are dead. Once someone passes, that copyright kind of dissolves into the public domain. An important wrinkle to understand about public domain is that a collection of works from an artist can be copyrighted versus the individual work itself. So that's known as a collective works copyright. So feel free to copy and use individual images, but just be aware that there is that one catch-all. All right, and then next is Creative Commons. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this so we can go into the website itself. So there isn't actually one specific license category for images under the Creative Commons license. Rather, it's divided into 6 different main license types, and each one can be tweaked to cover text, images, video, or other types of works. So in order to understand Creative Commons license, it's best to look at them in terms of their clauses. So licenses are defined by the presence or absence, and that includes credit given to creator from creator. That could also, there's also a commercial adaption in here. And so this is really the key kind of clause you want to look out for, essentially by asking yourself when you want to use an image, am I using this image to coax money out of someone's pocket and put it into my own? If your answer is yes, then it's best to go with a commercial use. So you would not be able to, CC by NC, not be able to use this if you wanted to put an image on a coffee mug, or if you wanted to use an image in an advertisement. Because technically that advertisement is essentially to, sorry, I just checked the chat really quick, but that advertisement, you're using that to get people really interested in your services or products and eventually purchasing something from you. So do we have any questions about licenses or copyrights? I know it gets a little confusing, but we're going to make it a lot easier for you. Oh yeah, so we do have to have a comment. We do have a comment from Susan. She's actually our technology librarian. She's joining us today. So we need to be careful about some artists because in some cases the estate of the artist will own the copyright to their works. Yes, that is common with 20th century artists, even though they are dead. Yes, so again, we're going to kind of now dive into how do we know? How do we know? So we are going to be touching base about that too. So first off, look for an image credit or contact details. So if you find an image online, look carefully for a caption that includes the name of the image's creator or copyright owner. There may be an email address or a link to the image owner's website or info, and you can always contact the image owner to request their image by purchasing a license or coming to an agreement on the terms of use. Next, look for a watermark on the image. A watermark on the image is a clear sign that the image is copyrighted. I know people have come to me in the past asking, how do I remove this watermark so I can use this for my advertising? You do not want to do that. That actually demonstrates clear and willful intent to infringe on any sort of copyright, and that evidence can be used against you if the artist wanted to bring the case before a court of law. Next, you can check the image's data. If you want to know how to do this more in depth, it does change from Windows versus Mac. So send us an email and we can kind of talk you through this. But essentially, it's just looking at the information that's inside that image file. And you'll also often find the name of the copyright owner or even a full copyright notice within the data. Next, we can do a Google reverse image search. So if you still can't find the details of the image owner, you can just essentially right-click within the Chrome browser and select Google image reverse image search. Wow, my brain definitely reversed that phrase. So when doing that, you can see, you can kind of track down what are the origins of this image, how can I find the creator? Lastly, and the most important thing, if in doubt, don't use it. So some people, to protect their livelihood, copyright owners may actually actively monitor cases of unauthorized use of their work. So if you've taken all of these steps and you're still unable to fully 100% verify the owner or the source of the image, don't use the image. There's still plenty of high quality image banks available that offer an easy way to access and use images for all different kinds of specifications and budget. So there's really no excuse for infringing on copyright, and the consequences, legal, are costly and can be incredibly unpleasant. So where to look, Madeleine, you ask? What are these high quality image banks I speak of? Laura and I created a collection of several of our favorite ones to go to. And these are found on your worksheet that I emailed you earlier today. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my personal favorite, which is Unsplash. So you're like, wow, a photo bank, interesting. This is essentially a place. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on freely usable images. It has their license descriptor in here. Unsplash images are made to be used freely. Our license reflects the fact that you can use these for commercial. So in advertising, you can even sell some of the photos if you want. And non-commercial, this might be a personal social media post purposes, and no permission is needed. And it also gives you kind of, here's things that you cannot do. So let's go back to the beginning. And this is one of my favorites because I feel like the quality of images are really high. They kind of fit into my personal aesthetics, what I want. And I also like how they are easily organized. And you can also see, you can create an account on Unsplash and make your own folders. You can see what other people make. I like the fact that it has that kind of social integration, just seeing what people are using right now. If I just click on this, yeah, this is just an example of tags also. So if you're trying to find an image, you can always kind of narrow down or find additional things that you like by searching the tags. So that is just one example of a lot of these places. Let me make sure I'm going back into presentation mode. I think, yes. That's just one example. I really encourage you to kind of click around, explore, see a lot of these cool places to just check it out. All right, so now choosing the right image. Whether you know it or not, all companies, yours included, have a brand identity and visual language on social media or through advertisements, and some of them are just a little bit more fluent than others. So when you're choosing the right image, you're essentially creating a visual strategy. So some things that you can do to kind of identify your brand and really elevate it is to find examples of social media accounts that you currently follow and you feel like is a good reflection of your brand, but also a good reflection of who your customer will follow. Next, you can create a mood board. Laura's going to dive into this a little bit deeper, but you can add content, color palettes, other visuals that will help shape your direction and allow you to kind of make your social media thread, if that's your intent, or your advertising more focused and a little bit more streamlined. Next, consider themes. One Instagram feed I follow, they're a travel agent. They have different themes of posts that they create. So they might share a combination of, one theme would be destination shots, and the other one might be airplane shots, people traveling to these specific places. Next, consider the platform and then also the specifications and size of the images. So you need to adapt your visual strategy for each social channel and also ensure that the photo is sized to the right specifications that the channel really kind of dictates. I mean, you don't want to upload an image and then part of it just gets cropped because it's the wrong ratio of size. And that would be pretty upsetting. It is really easy to find social media size guides online. Simple Google can do it. If you would like more information, again, feel free to email me. The last thing, and in my opinion, the most important thing of choosing the right image is focusing on your audience research. So that's essentially the background on your audience's interests, and think about what type of visual content they would like to see versus what you would like to see. That's something that I have to battle a lot. I'm currently creating a social media strategy for my jewelry business, and I have to continue to ask myself, like, or catch myself. I'm choosing images that I like versus I need to make sure that I'm on the track of choosing images that really appeal to my ideal customer or clients. So we can put out an ordinary image that we think represents our company, but why are we appealing to our own desires when we should be focusing on what our customer is attracted to? So essentially, to one up your marketing, you need to incorporate an understanding of how your customer thinks by asking yourself a couple of questions like, where are they going to find my advertisement, or which platforms are they currently on? What do they like, or which images will resonate the most with them and their interests? And then lastly, how best can I advertise to increase my own conversion rates? So if you don't have the answers to these questions or haven't really thought about these questions, I really recommend creating a complete buyer persona or customer persona, which is a combination of one, identifying your customer, and that's a blend of their psychographics or what makes them them, and then also their demographics, and then also how they make buying decisions. So if you're asking yourself, like, why should I do this, Madeleine? This might take a lot of time. Like, I feel like I just need to get like a cute image with the right filter. I give you the answer of psychographic marketing. So psychographic marketing is incredible because it plays on the subconscious personality characteristics of your consumer. It's personally and perfectly suited to help advertisers capitalize on impulsive decision making. So there was a study done in 2009 where essentially by tailoring their marketing images to their ideal client after creating a customer persona, they increased click rates by 670%. So we know the science is there. So let's dig our heels in a little deeper and kind of complete our understanding of who our customer is. So this is an example from Guild Business Demographics. It's one of our databases we have at the library. This is an example of a kind of a customer profile that is created by Experian. Yes, the credit reports. It's essentially information that's taken from every or most every credit card swipe done by our lovely citizens of America. And you can see, so for that customer persona, we have that combination of demographics, so who we are, kind of like census information, psychographics, key features. So this specific group, Bohemian Groove, they're apartment dwellers, they like gourmet cooking, modest living, value conscious shoppers, essentially what makes them them. And then it also has channel preferences, so how they make buying decisions. And channel preference on this resource, it's essentially what platforms do they most positively respond to in terms of marketing. So it also has images at the bottom. These are, again, images that help that they're drawn to. So including things that are colorful, maybe games, eclectic interests, gourmet cooking. That specifically really appeals to those who are within this bohemian groove, maybe your ideal client. So here's an example of psychographic marketing. So we are asking, where and how would my Bohemian Groove customer make a decision to purchase my product? So first, we are going to essentially say, okay, so I have a vegan protein bar. Maybe that's it, that I'm selling right now. And since this is my target audience, I know that since they have a low income, I'm probably going to make this really affordable, or try to make it as affordable as possible, but also focus on conveying a message that this protein bar is, it doesn't taste like a protein bar. Maybe it has like my mind goes to signature blend of spices to make it a little gourmet. And maybe I also have in an image someone eating this protein bar who's also eclectic interests, maybe at a trampoline park, or because these people are 51 to 65 and I'm already have bad knees. Maybe it's someone sitting in a park listening to a concert, doing something a little bit outside of the ordinary. And so once I have that understanding of who exactly this person, and I have an image of, or I've imagined the image that I want to source from these places online, I then can tailor that image to their channel preference. So I can see here that Bohemian Groove, they most likely will positively respond and click on text messages or radio messages, but also I have a pretty high for email, or no, that's direct mail marketing. So maybe I'm going to create a flyer that includes some of these images and also has like maybe a cool, like a postage card. That's what I'll do, a postcard that has a really nice hook line that will appeal to these key features that include images similar to these and that keep in mind who they are, their demographics. So do we have any questions about psychographic marketing? And again, I taught a webinar on identifying your customer last month that really dives in deep and also has a worksheet on how to create your own. So today we're kind of focusing on breadth, not depth. So feel free to respond to any of our emails if you do want to learn more about this. So I had mentioned postcards and focusing on including images. So here's a cool stat that I read online. So whether your content includes images that illustrate text or simply accompany an article, readers want to see images. So articles and blog posts, and even any kind of post that contain images get over 90% more total views and interactions than those without. So I'm going to pass the mic to Laura, who created some really wonderful examples, and she's going to walk you through how to utilize some of these images that essentially appeal to your ideal customer. So Laura, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Madeleine. Excuse me. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions about what Madeleine has gone over now, drop them in the chat if you want them answered now, and that way we can kind of work through getting some answers for you. This is also a good time to do that while I get my screen set up here for you. And my mouse is, there we go. Okay, is everybody seeing my screen here now?
Looks great.
Wonderful. Okay, so like Madeleine said, we're going to go over creating some marketing materials and how you might go about using some of these image banks to source images. So it's important to remember the branding and consider your customer. So like Madeleine was going over earlier, your buyer persona. If you haven't created a buyer persona, maybe you want to just get started with getting together a group of images that you think will appeal to who you think your customer might be, regardless of whether you've gone through the buyer persona information or not. So we're going to go over some different ways to create materials for virtual, print, social media posts, presentations, websites. The possibilities are kind of endless. I know it's a lame saying, but it's true. You can create a lot with these images. So my part of the presentation is going to be just a little bit fun and creative here. So Madeleine went through some of the ins and outs of licensing, and I'm going to go through some different prompts. So I wanted to challenge myself to create some prompts and find some images for these specific topics. My personal business is actually similar to Madeleine, where I make my own jewelry and I'm kind of dabbling into making some of my own clothes and selling that. So it doesn't really translate well for sourcing stock images, because a lot of the things that I share are the things that I've made. So I wanted to challenge myself not to do this for my business, but for these imaginary businesses that I'm creating. So the first one we're going to go over is a 1970s themed bar. So I know that one seems kind of silly, but in my dream world, I'm going to open a 1970s themed bar here in Champaign. And I went to one in Los Angeles a few years ago, and I just fell in love with it. And I thought the concept was so fun. So we're going to explore the idea of opening a 1970s bar and what images you might use for that. We're also going to explore opening a bakery, and we're going to see what kind of images you might be able to find out in the world that would be specific for baking. And the last one is going to be a service. So you'll see later, I'll show you how to source images for like a community project, a service, or something that you're offering that isn't a physical location or product. Okay, so first one we're going to look at is the 70s bar. So this is just a screen cap of a pin board, and I'm going to show you how I use Pinterest to organize all of these different images. So for the 70s bar, what I wanted to show was not specific products, not a specific location, but we're going over a feeling, a mood, an environment. So these are all images that I collected through some image banks that I thought told a story of retro. Some of the search terms I used for this was 1970s, bar, vintage, retro. I think like 70s pattern was one that I used. So this is a small sample of some of the things that I found. These are just the ones that I decided to save. You'll also see that I have created some of my own marketing materials here, and I've saved them into the pin board as well. So I think when you see this, you kind of get a nostalgia. I think you get 70s, especially when you're looking at this person at the roller disco night. So am I going to have a disco night at the bar? Probably not. But I do think that this image kind of showcases the feeling that I want to portray at this location. So you can see here that I have taken this image. This is, again, a screen cap from one of the resources, Pixabay. And I have taken this and created my own social media post. So at this bar, I'm dreaming of doing a trivia night. So here I've created a social media post. I used Canva, which we use a lot here at the library. And this was I just opened up a blank document and formatted it to be square. So it was perfect for Instagram. And I created this post. What's nice is that I could reuse this exact theme or this exact template every time and change out that background image to be something that works, so I'm not reusing the same image every time. So this is just an example of using a stock image, going from here, and then probably took me 10, 15 minutes maybe to create my social media post. So saving a lot of time by using a stock image instead of going out and trying to photograph and edit a photo of the actual location or like a drink or something like that. Okay, next one's a little bit kookier. It's a little crazy. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I had a lot of fun making it. So I was dreaming up in this town here in Champaign, a lot of businesses celebrate Record Store Day. So I thought, why not have my business participate in Record Store Day and have some music? So you can see here that I have taken these 3 images that I sourced from different image banks, and I have kind of collage styled them together to create this poster that I'm gonna hang up around town. So easy way to, again, I used Canva, an easy way to snag all these images and kind of turn them into my own image. So instead of just taking the gentleman who's discoing, I've also added the record player so you can really get that, like, we're going to have music or we're going to spin records. And I think it kind of shows that we're funky, we're weird. I think it portrays what I want my business to share with the world here. Anybody have any questions about that one so far? I'm going to just keep moving, but if anybody does, feel free again to chat or raise your hand. So here's the next one, the theme of bakery. So for this For this example, I used the terms bakery, baked goods, cookies, breads, muffins. I wanted to think about some different products that you might have at a bakery. And this is a generic bakery. I'm not doing anything super specific. So we're going to click through. Again, I'm using Pinterest. So I have at the very top here sorted out some of my marketing materials. And then at the bottom here, I have some of the images that I wanted to use.
Laura, I do have a question.
Yes.
So someone has asked, can't I just use Pinterest to find images?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. And I am going to get into that a little bit later. After I show you some of these examples, we're going to go through together and actually search for some images. And I'm going to show you kind of what the difference is using an image bank and using Pinterest. So great question. Just hang tight.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with this example with using our bakery, I'm going to go ahead and click through here. And I want to show an example. So Madeleine was talking about how reaching some of your customers, you might use different channels. So with this example, I have created a postcard. This is something that you could print out and you could have a mailer on the back and you could send this out to someone. In this theme, I'm doing like a brunch at the bakery. So maybe I want to have like a soft opening. And I want to invite some people to the bakery. This might be a great way to get some people to your business. And I've again snagged an image from Pixabay and I have just moved it on to a template that was on Canva. And now I have my postcard ready to go. Of course, I would update the information to be accurate if it was a real business, but this is just an example of this took probably 2 minutes. I found an image really quickly. I felt like it was bright and fun, and that was how I wanted my bakery to feel. I wanted it to feel fresh and clean, and this image really spoke to me for that. So let's come through here. So this is going to be an example again from Canva. I should mention everything I've shown you up until now was a free template on Canva. This one is a paid one, but we have a paid account here at the library, so I was able to access it. But there are tons of templates that are free on Canva, so don't worry about spending a bunch of money to get some of these beautiful options. But the one I'm going to share with you now is actually a website. So these are again screen grabs, but you can actually take directly from Canva and upload to a website. So this would be an example of how to create a website with stock images. So right up top, I want to mention though, so for our bakery, we have a lot of pictures of products. I would not recommend using only stock photos for something like this. I think it's good and easy to sprinkle them in here and there for something a little more basic, like a loaf of bread or a batch of cookies or some macarons. Like those are some different or some more basic bakery items, not like a decorated frosted cake that might look different for your bakery than it does for a generic stock image. So you don't want to falsely advertise the products that you're selling. So with something like this, for a mailer, for a couple images on your website, I think it's totally fine to intersperse some stock images. And it sounds like we might have some folks in this webinar who might have some opinions on that, and I'd love to hear them if you do. I personally think it's okay. Sprinkle a few of those here and there, but maybe don't create your entire marketing campaign with stock images. I think it does get a little bit iffy there. You want to actually sell the products that you're making as well. So let's just click through. Here again, just some examples. I wouldn't use stock images for this entire website, but here's some examples about how you could. Again, I've used all of these images from that pin board that you saw at the beginning here. And of course, just for fun, in my dream world, Madeleine and I have opened this bakery. We became baking lovers during the quarantine, and now here we are a year and a half later opening our very first bakery together here in Champaign. Okay. So we're going to go into the next one. This next option is service. So say you're not selling a product, you're not opening a physical location, but you're going to be offering a service. I think this is one of the harder topics to search for because you really have to think about your search terms when you're searching. So in this example, I'm opening up a business that is kind of like a personal assistant for a senior. So this is going to be someone who is running errands, helping with some basic tasks for seniors. But what they want to do is open up a personal assistant business. So before you open the business, you're not going to have photos. You're not going to have pictures of your clients. You're not going to have all of these examples. So a great way to get that is to use some stock images to get you started. So in this example, I have used the search terms seniors, elders, grandma, grandpa, helper. I'm trying to think if I used any other ones. So those were kind of the main. I think I used, like for this one, I think I did hand holding. I think I did search assistants actually, because I see this one has assistants as the title. So anyway, you really have to think outside the box if you want to get some images for a service. I think you need to think more in terms of what you're going to be offering, who the clientele are going to be, and sometimes less just the activities. Okay, so I'm going to switch over. So this, oh yeah.
Laura, I believe you're going to be going into this a little bit further, but we have a question. Can you clarify what website you are on when you pinned those photos to?
Yes. So I'm using Pinterest. I'm going to go through how to use Pinterest and how to use Google Drive to organize and save your photos if you don't want to use Pinterest. Is that helpful?
I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so this is an example of how you can create a presentation or a pitch or something that just identifies your brand and the services that you're going to offer. So again, in this example, I am creating a personal assistance service for seniors. So I wanted to think about who I was going to be targeting. So I want to probably work at getting information available for seniors and possibly for folks in a caregiver position, or for folks maybe who are their parents are aging and they want to find some options for them. So again, super generic. I didn't take the time to actually pitch this business. We're just using some images to kind of get the point across here. So I have Juliana here, and here's Juliana, and she's helping this gentleman kind of search on the computer and maybe make a purchase. So I thought this was a nice friendly image that kind of showed someone helping a senior. And this next slide here, what I did was search for icons. So you can find stock icons, not just photos. You can find illustrations, vectors, icons, which you can use in your presentations or pitches in your social media posts. You can add those on as well. So here I wanted a clear idea of what my services were going to be. And people respond to visuals very well. So I thought, why not just show all these visuals of the activities that we're going to be helping seniors with. Now here again, I wanted this to feel like a nice somber, here's my mission, here's my vision, and the colors, I think everything works really well together, and that's what's nice about stock photos too. You can really limit to a certain color palette and find something that works for you. So again, I'm not going to just go over these and be too specific, but I think this helps you get an idea of the services that we're going to offer and the different things that will be available. All right, here's one I wanted to talk about. this is a little page that would have maybe some reviews from your clients. And I think it's okay. Say you have an excellent review from a client, but they don't feel comfortable getting their photograph taken. I think it's okay to work with them and ask if it's okay if you use a generic image or a stock image instead of their own if they're not comfortable. These images all still portray a happy client, a happy customer. So again, feel free to add your opinion if you don't think that's a good idea, but I think it's totally fine to sprinkle them in here and there. Would I want to use only stock images for my clients? Probably not. I think you want to use it sparingly and you want to sprinkle it in again into your business, not only use stock images. Last thing I wanted to just touch on, this is one example. There are all sorts of sites now that you can use to create your own illustrations. So this is an illustration. It's a vector illustration that I use this tool, Blush. This in particular is one that seems like you might want to pay for if you want to really get the full benefits of, but I was still able to create this image on the right, which works. I think it's a funky image. You can maybe tell I'm kind of into some funky stuff here. I like bright colors and exciting things. So I loved this website and I thought it had some lovely options if you were wanting to create some of your own images for presentations or for the services that you're going to offer instead of just using photographs. Okay, so we're going to go through does anyone have any questions? I'll go ahead and ask that first. We're going to go over organizing content and we're going to actually go through doing a search together next. So if anyone does anybody have any questions for me before I move on?
All clear on the Western Front.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to zip through this part of the presentation and then we'll get into a live demonstration here. Organizing images. Tons of different ways you can do it. It just depends on personal preference. During this presentation, I'm going to show you how to use Pinterest and Google Drive. You can also use Canva to organize some of your images, but I think that one works a little bit better if you're using it to make the marketing materials, and I'll show you that in a little bit. The other option, of course, is a computer or the drive if you're using your phone or a tablet. I personally like to store things in a cloud location. So if I have my phone that I use, I have an iPad, I also sometimes will use a computer. So I find it easier to have everything in a cloud location where I can access it from any device instead of trying to remember which device I saved the photo to. It's always an option though, if you don't want to use a cloud location, you can of course use your computer. Okay, Pinterest. Pinterest is a great way to store images, but the source links in Pinterest are very, very easily lost. If you've used Pinterest before, it can be frustrating if you find an image that you really like and you maybe want to learn more about who made the item, who took the photo, or who made the illustration, and the source link is dead and there's no information there. You could do as Madeleine suggested and save the image and then do a reverse image search on Google, but it's a lot easier if the source link is just right there. So Pinterest isn't a great way to source items or source images because you end up doing a lot more legwork to figure out if it's an image you can actually use. Not all images on Pinterest are available for commercial use. Many are not. When you're saving, I'm going to go through how you can make sure you always include the source link, which is helpful for you. And it's also helpful for the artists who are creating these images, and it's helpful for other people if they want to use the image. Okay, again, we're going to go through this live, so don't worry about following along too much. You're going to create a pin, and right here, you can see I've circled add destination link. And that's going to be the easiest way on Pinterest to save that link. I see we've got a chat, so let me check and see if it's anything. Just links. Okay.
Just me.
Okay. Google Drive. Drive is an easy way to store your items because you can access it on any device. And again, we'll go through how to save onto Google Drive. I did find it a little bit challenging for me personally to figure out how do I want to save that link in Google Drive. So I'm going to go over that with you as well. So just as a little example here, you can see in my drive, I've got a lot of different folders, and I am a huge folder organizing person. Even in my email, I've got so many different folders for all my different topics. So it's easy to go back and find something. Same thing with images. As long as you're saving them in a way that's easy to search for and in a folder that's easy for you to access later, it can make organizing just a breeze, and you can find your images and not waste so much time looking for something. Oop,
Just a
went too fast.
quick
Yeah.
And back to the file storage slide, I also really like how it can help organize your social media strategy and kind of pulling together maybe themes that you want to do, or like specific weeks. This is especially if you're considering like, well, I want to schedule out this one series. That can be done really easily with just folders.
Absolutely. Okay. This slide, just a quick example of, again, we'll go over this live, but all that I ended up doing was adding a comment to the photos that I saved in Drive. And in the comments, I just pasted the link so that later I can go back and access that image anytime. And I don't have to worry about, oh no, where did this one come from? What, I want to get it again and save it in a different size, but I don't know where it was. This way you don't have any of that hassle. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do a search. So give me just a second here. And we're not done with our presentation, so ignore that. And I'm going to come over here to, I'm going to search Pixabay because Madeleine, that is one of my favorite ones to use. And I'm going to pose a question. Does anyone have a topic they want me to do a search for? Drop it in the chat, raise your hand. If not, I'll pick a random one. But I'm going to go through and show you how to find and save a photo.
We have someone saying pet grooming.
Pet grooming. Okay, so let's look for, I'm just going to start with pet grooming. Let's just see what we find. Seniors. Okay, so I kind of did that example earlier, so I'm happy to do a live search with seniors as well and just kind of show you what comes up after we do pet grooming here. Oh, whoops. Pet grooming.
We also have contracts.
Oh, okay.
I know that would be a good service to kind of see.
Yeah. Okay, pet grooming. So this is probably a little bit easier of an example, so thank you so much. It's easy to find pictures of pets, and you don't have to worry as much with this if it's a local pet. Pets are, dogs are dogs, cats are cats. So let's see here. So I'm just thinking about looking at these images here. You'll notice with Pixabay, they have sponsored images at the top here. So these will be ones that cost, and that Pixabay does have coupons that you can use to purchase the images, which is really nice. But I'm going to choose this one right here. I like we've got a woman petting a cat. That looks like a nice image that I want to use somewhere on my website. So you'll notice right here on Pixabay has the license readily available next to each image. You can easily look and see what's allowed, what's not allowed. But I'm going to download this one. So you can see here, I've got different options for what file size. I'm just going to use this one here that is selected for me already. And I'm going to download the image. And I'm going to prove that I'm not a robot. Okay, wonderful. So my image is saved to my computer now, and I want to show you right here at this, all websites are different. All of the image banks have a different way to portray this information, but almost every single one has a way that you can donate directly to the artist, which I think is wonderful. So you're getting this image for free, but if you wanted to say thank you to the image author, you can donate money right here, or you can just check out what other images they have or learn a little bit about them by clicking on their social channel. So I'm not going to donate to them right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is come over to my Pinterest, and I'm going to create a new pin. So here's my pin board, and I'm going to click create. create pin. And since my image is just right here, I'm going to just drag and drop it onto the upload here.
And by right here, that's just kind of Google Chrome recently downloaded.
Yes, thank you so much.
So you could also click on upload and then find maybe your download folder if you're not using Chrome. Or
absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Here I'm going to go ahead. I want to use a word that's a good descriptor, so I'm just going to use cat. I was going to say Catwoman, but that might be kind of weird. So I'm just going to go with cat and woman. Great. And could I just publish this right now? I sure could, but I'm not going to, because I want to make sure that later on, if I want to access this image again, that I can. So I'm going to navigate back to Pixabay up to the address bar here. I'm going to highlight and I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy this location and I'm going to navigate back to Pinterest and I'm going to paste this in the destination link here. Now I'm going to go ahead and publish. I have a board already created that's just examples for this portion of the webinar. If you're wanting some more in-depth tutorials on using Pinterest, the library, you'll see in the worksheet that you have, we've linked a lot of different webinars for you, but our technology librarian Susan and Rebecca Van Dusen, another library staff member here, have created a bunch of technology webinars that you can access, including an intro to Pinterest. So moving on, let's publish this pin. And here we go. I didn't mention, it did tell me my file was too large, but I ignored that advice and went ahead and just published it anyway. You could publish a smaller version of the file since you'll have the link here, but give me just a second to get back to my pins. Okay, so I'm going to come back to my pin board here, which is examples. And you can see right here when I click if I zoom right here and click the pin, when I actually click the pin, it comes back right to the source. So I could easily download a larger version or a smaller version, or just be like, oh yeah, it was this artist. If you wanted to attribute who the artist is, you could. So that's all right here. You don't have to waste any time looking for that information. So let me show you on Pinterest why I don't love using Pinterest to source images. So we're going to come back here, and here's an example that I wanted to show. So right here is an image that I found also on Pixabay earlier. And it's just this lovely picture of some roses. So if I scroll down, Pinterest is showing me some other images that are similar. And you know what? A lot of them are pretty close. And let me try this one and see what happens. This one goes straight to Etsy. So that's not a great example, but there are some, you can just go back here, that just take you to a dead link. So let me see if I can find an example of that. Yeah, like this one just takes me to this random website link. It's just the image. I have no idea who took this image. Where did it come from? Can I use it? What can I use it for if I can? Who do I even contact about using this image? So I think Pinterest can be kind of tough. Because there is no way to find some of those sources, and it can be frustrating. And like Madeleine said, you do not want to get into a copyright infringement issue. So it's best just to use some of the resources that you know are copyright free, or are not copyright free, but are in the Creative Commons or in one of the other license types that you can use for the service that you're wanting to use it for.
Laura, we have a supplemental question.
I'd love to hear it.
Would you want to keep the Pinterest board as private so that any of your Pinterest followers won't see them as new pins?
Thank you
so. Like the creation process, or what?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question because it's in my notes to mention this and I didn't. So that's the other thing I like about using Pinterest is you could make it a public board or a private board. All of mine are private boards right now because I'm not planning on sharing these images with other people. These are kind of the things that I just want to have for my business, and I want them to be easily accessed by me only. And you can see here, this is a lot. These are all the boards that we have saved. So we have a lot created. But you could make different boards for different the different things. So maybe you have one business and not four like I have right here, and you can do Instagram images, Facebook images, or maybe just a general advertising folder or product images. You can even upload your own images into this category so that you can see how do your images look with your stock images that you're downloading. So I mean, I'm not trying to convince you to use Pinterest, but I think it's very user friendly and it's very visual, and you can come through and move your things around. How does this image look next to that one? You can see in the senior services folder, I don't love the color palette actually that's going on here. I messed around with doing some of these illustration images and the color scheme just wasn't right. So I think it's super helpful to use something like this where you can get a visual representation of the images that you're using.
I think it's also worth noting that if you have a business profile on Pinterest, I want to reiterate that Pinterest is also a social media platform. You can create advertisements for your business as pins, and it's actually a really great way, especially if you make your own goods to sell them. So I would
include that link, include the link where they can purchase the item. So we could get we could just go on and on with this probably for another half an hour, but it's like, it is a great resource. And like Madeleine said, use it to sell your products too. You don't just have to use it for planning, you can use it for selling. Like this person did with linking directly to the Etsy shop.
By using a stock photo.
By using a stock photo, it's crazy. So there's kind of endless possibilities, like I said. We're getting close to our time, so I do want to just show you real quick how you could use Drive to do the same thing, Google Drive. So here we go. I am in my Google Drive. You can see I've got my image sourcing folder, and then I've got my different categories here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the bakery. And you can see I've got my stock images. You can see I've got a folder just for my promo materials. So that's kind of nice to have all that organized. But I want to just upload this cat photo, which doesn't make any sense. Let's create a new folder so we're not uploading our cat image into the baked goods. That just would drive me crazy. Okay, so we're going to call this pet grooming. I got my folder, and now again, since I have this in the recently downloaded bar, I'm just going to drag my image over. You can alternately do new and then upload right over here. You could do a file upload, and you could upload multiple images that way. And now I'm going to go ahead and click the folder. You can see I have one upload complete. Now I might rename this actually to something that again makes more sense. So later if I want to search for, I'm going to use Catwoman. Why not? Later if I want to search for this, it will be a little bit easier for me to find. Once I click the image though, here's where I'm going to add my source. I'm going to come back to Pixabay, come back to the image, and I can just click and drag and do a little comment bar right here, comment box. And then I'm going to save my comment. So this way I can, in my drive, go back and click on that click on that link, and it'll take me right back to the image. So that was the easiest way I found to organize on Drive and keep the source link. Someone who has more experience may have another way that works better. Let's see. Okay, reading some funny comments here. Okay, so let me go back to Pinterest, anybody have any other questions? I know I said maybe I'd do another search for seniors, but I don't think we're gonna have time for that, unfortunately. I'd be happy to show you. Madeleine and I both would be happy to work with you if you want to schedule an appointment to work with a librarian to help you, navigate some of the search terms too. Happy to do that.
Absolutely. And I would even recommend maybe comparing more than one of these essentially photo sites and seeing what comes up. Where I'm going to take over real quick just
do.
to show the contracts we had talked about.
Oh, yeah.
So here is Pixabay, Laura's favorite, and you can kind of see what the images are, but in comparison to unsplash.com, I mean, these are different photos. So it's
super different.
Yeah, it's worth looking around. And again, Pixabay and Unsplash does this. They provide you additional keywords that might help you narrow down which image best suits your needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in that resource worksheet that Madeleine sent out, which we can send out again if you would like, if you didn't get a copy of it.
Yeah, so
there's links to different options, and all of these some have the same images, but some have different feels, different curated images. So it's worth looking at all of them, or even others that we don't have on here.
Yeah, and again, finding which one you prefer, like Unsplash for life for me.
Yeah, I actually liked the Shopify, Burst by Shopify. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed Reshot, looking for illustrations and icons. I mentioned quickly the blush option if you're wanting illustrations that you can kind of customize.
Mm-hmm. I also really liked I did, for when I was looking up the contracts, I did click on Burst by Shopify, and only one image came up of a highway. So again, sometimes some sites might have what you need, others might not.
Yeah, and if you're thinking of contracts too, you might also think of like a different search term that you can use. So maybe if you're using papers or documents or
handshake.
Yeah, handshake. There's all different images that you can use in search terms to find images.
Yeah, I will say that as librarians, we are pretty great at coming up with the right search terms. So again, I do want to encourage anyone here to reach out, and we are happy to help. And one more thing before we leave, I did not do that new share. So I do want to touch base on our next workshop, which is actually a series. It's with Hope Linker. She's a social media strategist, which is why I wanted to have this webinar today. So if you are able to come to our social media strategy series, you know what you're going to post. So when you have what you want, you can come to this webinar here, and I'll also share, make sure that the new share happened. It did not, it did, great. You can kind of see this is the event page. This is where you'll sign up. You can see we're going to be going over Facebook, and then touching base on Instagram, going into LinkedIn. And then at the end of this series, we're having a social media roundtable where you can ask, you'll basically have the opportunity to ask Faith all of your questions that you have about creating your own social media strategy, or any follow-ups from this whole series. So I hope that this webinar is kind of helping you start your toolkit of images so you can essentially grow your business and experience more success on that marketing front. So it is a little bit after time. So
thanks for sticking with us.
Yes, thank you so much. Laura and I, we appreciate you all coming out today, spending your lunch hour with us. I do want to reiterate, this webinar was recorded, and once it has been processed and captioned, we will be sending everyone out a recording. I'll also send out a feedback form if you want to help us be better at what we do. Please feel free to fill it out. And again, reach out to schedule one-on-one with me, with Laura, or just ask us how we're doing, which is normally fine because we're at the library. Yeah. Well, everyone have a wonderful Thursday. I hope this weekend is fantastic. And thank you again for coming in. Once again, I'm Madeleine Wolske, business librarian, and we have Laura Reiss, adult librarian associate.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.